is Tuesday, November 19th. It's 7:01 p.m. And I think the first order of business is review the prior minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, I emailed everybody the minutes and hoped everyone read them. Are there any changes that you saw?
No.
I didn't.
No.
I didn't.
No, it looks like you had it pretty well covered.
I'll make a
Okay.
motion that we accept the minutes.
Second it.
Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the next on the agenda is something I thought we already did, but apparently not. We need to vote in a new secretary who took over for Tracy. And I would like to make a motion to vote in Hank.
Nice second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Hank.
Thanks.
We just made it official. All right, I'm actually going to switch this up a little bit. I believe on the town website I have the farmers market discussion as the next one, but I want to review our meeting with the Lakeville selectmen
Do that first.
that we had. I was pretty happy with our meeting with the selectmen. They're pretty much in favor for not only the farmers market, but the right to farm bylaw. There was an article on it, South Coast Today and Middleborough Gazette. It did cause some people posting on Lakeville, helping Lakeville.
Oh, is that what?
Yeah, on the farmers market. During the meeting, there were no questions except for one gentleman had a question on who's going to verify whether the food that's being brought in is what's the word I'm trying to
Oh,
think
he was talking about organically grown?
Organically grown, who's going to
Yeah.
certify that? That's actually done on the state and federal level, so that's nothing we have to worry about.
Right.
He seemed happy with that answer.
Yeah.
And the selectmen gave their blessing for the farmers market and the right to farm bylaw. Which leads us right into the farmers market discussion. Some of the things that were posted, the initial post on Lakeville Helping Lakeville was done by Dee Elliott. She was worried that the farmers market would actually be detrimental to her family's income.
Yeah.
I don't believe that would be the case whatsoever. I mean, it's 4 or 5 hours, one day a week. They have a huge, very loyal following.
It's funny because when we were first talking about a farmer's market a couple of years ago, I went to talk to Ken Elliott, and he said, go right ahead, it doesn't bother me.
Right.
We have our own clients, they're pretty loyal to us, and it's not going to bother me one bit if you have a farmer's market.
Yeah, I did post that. I inadvertently said that was Paul Hunt that spoke to him because I knew one of us spoke to him.
Maybe both of us spoke to him.
But I wasn't sure. No, I think it was just you. But I know Ken did say that, go right ahead, it's not going to bother me whatsoever. I did put that on I did repost that.
Good.
But I do have some other ideas. Because we're here to help agriculture within the town.
Exactly.
Not only help the agriculture that's already established, but try and promote new agricultural ventures. And, I would love to see the Elliott's Farm be part of it. I mean, they're like a shining child. I mean,
Yes.
but they stated that they don't have the manpower to be a part of it. I do have some ideas. I don't know if you want to pass that down. On some of the ideas of what I'd like to incorporate into like a write-up of rules for the farmer's market. The first one on the list, which was mentioned at our last meeting, was no reselling of commercially made factory-type items.
Right.
I don't see a problem with someone who's selling flowers that they've grown, and they're selling like small packets of fertilizer to give, something
Yeah.
in support of their business.
Right.
But I don't want someone just buying up a bunch of stuff from
Right.
eBay, not eBay, but Amazon, and reselling.
Right.
I'd like to see handcrafted, homegrown type stuff.
I agree.
The second one is, I came up with is to address Dee Elliott's concern about them not having enough manpower. I don't know if she would utilize it or not. I know they're doing phenomenal with selling their produce where they're at. But working with the school systems to try and get volunteers of kids, high school kids, to help out, like man their booth, help them bring the produce to the the farmer's market. Because kids who belong to the National Honor Society have to have so many hours of volunteer time.
Yeah.
And that could actually work, say, Bristol Aggie. They could actually bring kids in and that are going for agriculture within Bristol
Yeah.
Aggie and have the help on the farm, as well as those kids getting an education on a really well-established working farm.
Yeah. That might be a place to.
And also Eagle Scouts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could
Yeah,
be-
they have to get volunteer time too.
They have to
don't
do volunteer time, and that may be a perfect project for
Yeah.
Eagle
One
Scouts.
season, yeah.
Every year, there's several, both here in Middleborough, I'm sure that,
Oh, Lakeville's got a huge Eagle Scout population with it.
Yeah.
My son was in the Boy Scouts, and they were all going for their Eagle Scout badge, and I was very impressed with how many there were that already had it and how many were going for it.
And I mentioned before about folks who are in agriculture in town and don't feel they can or don't feel they want to be part of a farmer's market. There's nothing to stop us, the Agricultural Commission, with their permission, having signs at the market that say, please also patronize our friends and list their farms and list what addresses or contact information or anything like that.
No, I think that'd be a good idea.
So that they're included. I mean, certainly to ask them if they'd like that. But I think that that's part of, because we're here to promote agriculture in town, not to
Right.
make it worse for anybody.
No, that's a good idea. I don't know if we have flyers or
Yeah.
the signs or
Flyers.
whatever.
Yeah, that's a good
I
idea,
think
too.
would work best. So the third thing is what I call Lakeville First. Basically, farmers or crafters or vendors located, based in Lakeville, would have first priority for a booth. And it's gonna have to be, I know it's gonna be kind of a headache for, those of you who are volunteering to manage the farmer's market. But it's gonna have to be done, such as produce. Say Elliott's Farm wants to be a part of the farmer's market. They would have first priority, as well as other Lakeville farmers.
Right.
Other Lakeville farmers would not be competing each other as far as a spot as what they're selling for produce. If Elliott's Farm comes in with corn and tomatoes, and no one else is selling corns and tomatoes that's based in Lakeville, we can bring someone in, say, a Middleborough farmer, but they would have to be selling something different.
Potatoes, yeah.
Because the main object is protect our own, but we also need to have a good selection of produce.
Yeah. And in the review of the survey that was online, there are a lot of people looking for alternative types of food, organically grown as opposed to just locally grown but conventionally grown, different types of baked goods, some that are no carbs, some that are no gluten, things like that. So I can see that it makes sense to have, if we've got a grower in town who's doing tomatoes and corn conventionally, I think it makes sense to bring somebody from Middleborough or another town who's doing the organic version of the same thing, because you're selling to a different customer.
True. The other question is, we're only going to accept them if they're certified organic. And
Right.
Unless they're a huge farmer,
It's too expensive.
it is so expensive
Yeah.
to get your certification as an organic
Yeah.
grower,
Yep.
and it's so time consuming. I don't think we'd be able to find,
Right. Yeah.
I might be wrong. There
No.
might be some out there,
Right.
but they're few and far between because of the cost.
Yeah, I know there's one couple that started farming recently in Middleborough who are biodynamic, which is a step
Above.
organic, and it doesn't require an organic classification.
They call that
Biodynamic. Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's something like Tilth and Timber or something like that is the name of their farm. And I'm not sure where they are.
Is there any certification process on that, or?
There are different levels, yeah, and it's, if they were interested, I don't even know if they're interested in being in our farmers market, but if they were, then we could check that aspect out. There's a couple of gradations of certification for that.
I think one of the big draws of the farmers market here in Lakeville is that on a Saturday in the summertime, there's like 1,000 people at Ted Williams throughout the entire day. And they're not only from Lakeville or Middleborough,
No.
they're from towns that go way out.
I
Because
think,
they have teams that are competing against another team. And it's a beautiful way of our local farmers and crafters and artists and so on to be able to get noticed from such a diverse and long-reaching population.
It's neat.
Plus, I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it'd be a blast.
I think on a summer day, they get the sports going on, and right next to where the park commission wants to have us is the kids' playground. I think it'd just be a good experience.
Yep.
The other idea that's part of Lakeville First is, I know we still need to do some research on what the average charge is for the vendors per day as well as for the season. But I'd like to find out what that average cost is of what people are charged.
I think it's in the area of $15.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
And we can go with an average on what we charge, but vendors that are located and based in Lakeville, I would like to see, this is not just my decision, this is all of us, have a price break.
vendors from Lakeville.
Correct.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing.
I wish Chris was here. She wasn't able to make it, unfortunately. But the next step for the farmers market, doing research on what the average charges for
Okay.
a booth located, the amount for a
Yep.
booth.
Okay.
And we'll probably need to write up the rules
Yep.
and finalize those.
And Joanne has provided me with some of the rules and regs that they use for the vendors at the Arts and Music Fest, so that's a nice place to start.
Okay,
And I'll work on that with Crystal.
all right. Thank you.
That's good.
Certified organic is so hard, and there are smaller guys around that do it, but I think, might we not consider a break for them also, certified organic,
To get them in?
to get them in, yeah. That's a big take, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, they're already spending a small fortune just to get that certification anyways.
right.
Yeah, I'm not against that. That, it sounds like a good idea.
I have to say, my daughter's farm is not organic.
It's tough to do.
They say that it's pretty tough to do. So.
I know one of the specialists she worked at Ocean Spray in the lab, but she also had her own business for going around and checking cranberries for pests. And basically they would go out on your entire acreage and check for all different manners of pests, and there's a certain count that those pests have to be at before they are considered a threat. This woman was phenomenal, highly intelligent, and very well versed in all the different pests and things that could actually be a problem for cranberries. And she decided she was going to grow cranberries organically. Well, after doing it for a few years, you realize that it's not that easy. Because you don't really end up with very many cranberries.
Is that Mrs. Tripp?
Interesting.
No, her name was Monica.
All right, she was with the DEP. She chewed me out for not, I put out a bid to get some cranberry growers down at the site that I was running. We had 32 plus 7 acres. And I just couldn't see that they could make a profit at it.
Right.
And I didn't bid it out, the organic. And
Yeah,
she-
there's just so many different pests and so on. I mean, it's like any produce, fruits. They all have their problems with bugs and
Yeah,
pathogens and whatever. So it's not very easy to do. And if you do it, you're not only pulling your hair out, but you don't end up with very much product to sell. Anything else for the farmers market?
Oh, do you want to share I just left them all there for everybody. This is the final results of the online survey that we had.
Oh, wow.
With it was on the town website. Take a copy. You want a copy, Joanne?
Out of curiosity.
So it was on the town website, and then Dave put it up on.
Oh,
The
I posted on
commission,
different pages.
Facebook,
Yeah, Lakeville Farming,
Yeah,
Lakeville Helping Lakeville,
yeah.
to get us some attention.
So in the weeks that it was up, we got over 300 responses.
Which is pretty good. I
Yeah.
think that's more than who voted for the selectmen.
And the smaller sheets on the front, there were 10 questions in the survey, and most of them were like a multiple choice. There were 2 that were open-ended questions, so that those didn't print out with a percentage. Where do I have that? So, one of the open-ended questions was, which day of the week would you like? And it was overwhelmingly, that people chose overwhelmingly the weekend days. And then there were people who said, not on the weekend, please. That's when everybody has other farmers markets. So there are things that everybody liked and didn't like about stuff. You get all kinds of things, but I haven't gone through and tallied up the last 30 or so responses, which are what we've gotten since we met with the selectmen. But at the time that we met with the selectmen, there were 183 responses that were looking at wanting us to go on Saturday, and 116 on Sunday. So that may be that people said Saturday or Sunday, so I counted those up. 30-something for Friday, and everybody else was a lot smaller than that. So that's kind of the way that worked out for that question. And I didn't tally up all of question numbers. Okay, that was question number 4, I'm sorry. Then question number 7 was, what would you like to buy? And so on these legal sheets, that's this really broad one here that says specifically what items would you like to see offered at the Lakeville Farmers Market? And so those are lists of what people said they wanted. And what was the most in demand was local produce, and then baked goods. A lot of people wanted local honey.
Yeah.
And I was
Really hard to find, even
Yeah.
to get at the festival.
Yeah.
Honey is hard to find.
Local honey.
Someone who has honey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people, I was surprised how many people were interested in finding organic eggs.
Organic eggs?
Yeah.
Oh,
So, and grass-fed meats, and artisan crafts, and jams and jellies. So those got the biggest. Fresh flowers and soaps and lotions also got a lot of votes. And then there's a whole lot of other stuff too that's in there if you want to read all the tiny little words.
That actually reminds me.
So I spoke with Tracy and said it would be okay to, Tracy, Selectman's Office Tracy, said it'd be okay to take the survey down because we only have another week and a half that's paid for.
Right.
And, we may as well just go with this information.
Yeah, the chances are there wouldn't be too many more.
No, in the week since we've met with the selectmen, there's only been about 30, so most of the results had come in. But it did give us a lot of information, which was nice to have to work with, I think.
Well, when we met with the Park Commission, weren't they leaning more towards a Saturday than they were Sunday?
What do you remember, Hank? Saturday more than Sunday?
Yeah.
I mostly remember it that they were asking us to make it earlier in the day rather than into the afternoon because of functions.
Right. They tend to go mid to late afternoon.
Yeah. They don't always have a lot of things going on in the mornings. But
I mean, even if you go at, we start at 10, and that brings us to 2, that's a 4-hour window.
yeah.
And then we're cleaning up and getting out just probably when a function would be, or shortly before,
Yeah. And
or 9 to 1.
yeah. Can ask them specifically, I guess. Best hours for Saturday.
I know if you do like 9 to 1, things will be cleaned up and packed up and done with before the functions will be starting, if there are any. And the mornings are pretty busy there as well, as far as parents and kids.
Yeah.
And if someone's actually like selling food, it covers the lunch time hour.
It does, or morning snacks. Okay, so that's a question for them. I just lost my train of thought. So thinking about that, I was thinking come the first of the year to start actively seeking people to apply to be vendors.
Okay.
And I didn't know how we think that might best be done.
Do you have any ideas on that?
The best way for you to contact? We did it, when we started the festival, it was all done through, at the time, just newspapers.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, social media was just trying to let people know that we had something happening, excuse me, and that it was new. So that your best bet today would probably be Facebook. And then reaching out to any farmer's market that you know's in the area that might want to share information with you.
Yeah.
Because maybe they have an overload.
Yeah.
And I'd also find out what your other farmer markets are charging and what their times are. Because if you have a lot of people who don't want you to compete, maybe being off by an hour for somebody might be helpful. In other words, if all the farmer markets in the area 10 to 2, you might want to be 9 to 1, just to help somebody say, okay, they could hit here first and then take off to wherever.
Yeah.
Because when we decided to do our 3 summer concerts in July, the nights we knew we didn't want were the nights Middleborough does Thursday,
Yeah.
somebody else around here does Friday. So that's why we picked Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Nobody does anything on Tuesday, which is kind of hard for you people because, you know, the weekend's a smart thing to do. But I just figure out a time period
Right.
and somehow be an hour later or earlier than maybe your closest competition.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion.
And some of the people were saying a Wednesday was a good day for the market because nobody else has a Wednesday
Yeah.
market.
But
And
it's- but-
then you get your pick of vendors, but
But are they
There's
busy?
probably-
Are they busy out in the fields or doing something else on Wednesday?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, and then you got people who are, they're working, they're in school, so
and
it's kind of hard.
there's got to be a reason people aren't having it on Wednesday.
Right, exactly. I mean, a concert's a whole different story. All you have to do
After
is
hours.
come home, you know, grab something to eat and crash and listen to music, you know, down the street.
Right.
It's a whole different story, but we didn't want to compete with anybody else. Plus, we wanted to be able to get musicians who weren't doing anything and they weren't playing someplace else.
And Tuesday's a good night.
And Tuesday, we were able to do that.
Yeah,
The other thing we do is reach out to Karen,
right.
because she has a lot of contacts from,
And she said she'd be happy to share everything. And she shared what contacts she had most recently for vendors with me. And the information that so she gave me their application sheets for, I think it was for 2016 and 17 or something like that, 17 and 18. I went through and I found a couple of them online where you could figure out who they were and what they were providing. A lot of them didn't have enough descriptive information so that you knew what they were doing. And there was no place to find them unless.
Is there anything the
Unless you
government,
had
like
phone.
Massachusetts.gov might have?
possibly.
For farmers?
Yeah.
The other, we can check CMAP.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was also going to check with Karen Schwalbe.
Yep. The other thing too is I could reach out to the New England homesteaders. They have like a farm day at different locations, like Plimpton Tractor Supply,
Oh, yeah.
and they do a great job. And see if any of the vendors that are involved in that would like to be part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Got it, anything you can think of, because it's really hard to reach out and find, especially if someone might be used to doing it at a certain place. They may not want to try a new place. Trying something new is a gamble, because they know they can get sales at this place. They don't know about the new place,
Yep.
so that's a tough thing too.
One of the things we have on our side is the amount of people that are already there.
Right, Exactly.
I'm sure, moms who are bringing their kids to soccer would jump at the chance of getting their produce
Exactly.
bought and everything while they're
Yep.
there.
Which is a good selling point when you're putting out your
Yeah.
notifications to everybody. So they know that they have a captured audience, kind of.
Yeah. All right, so I guess the next step is get the rules
okay.
and figure out what we're going to charge. I guess, and
Yeah, and what Karen had provided to us was, her weekly fee was $15, and I think she was going to go up on it if she continued. And then there was a season fee that was
Right.
$250 or something like that.
one thing that's helping us is that we don't have the overhead like Karen had.
Right. There had been a question about insurance, and I know overall, the town will cover things because it's us doing it on town property. And but the people who do prepared foods have to have a different, separate insurance for, that. And I think it was something maybe Crystal brought to the table. She was reading maybe New Bedford, one of the New Bedford farmers markets, that everybody had to have some sort of insurance to cover themselves when they came to that market. And I've inquired through the selectman's office, and I haven't gotten anything back from them about that. So I'm not sure what type of insurance that would be that you'd have to have separate. I can understand if you're making food that someone's going to eat.
Right. I don't know. And the other question is too is, that's probably not a town-run farmer's market on town property.
So that's
so
the way,
it might be,
yeah.
a private individual hosting it
Right.
on private land.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. That might be the case. Maybe there was no
Do
coverage.
people at Arts and Music have to have any separate
No,
insurance for
again, same
themselves?
thing. The town covers, because you were on town property and we're a town entity, just like.
Because we're talking about people now who are preparing food that people are going to buy, like the Unitarian Church.
They have their own insurance.
Okay.
They each have their own
Okay,
insurance, so they're
so that's what we
covered.
were talking
Yeah,
about just
prepared
now,
food,
yeah, so they have to have their
probably the
own.
same thing.
People with
Yeah.
Okay.
prepared food do, yeah.
Yeah.
The only ones who-
The other thing I don't know, do people who run farms, they obviously pay some type of tax with the state? Because crafters have to? And that's one of the things you'll see in our rules and regs where it says you need to be aware that you have to
You're responsible.
provide your own, in other words, if someone from the state were to come, which most likely will not happen on a weekend, but if they were to come and go around to each of your booths and ask you for your tax ID, you alone are responsible. It's nothing to do with the council.
Right.
So that's why that's on one of our rules and regs, and that's something you ought to cover too. Maybe also add the insurance part on. And
Yeah.
say, if you're preparing food, you're responsible.
Yeah, and we do have that. That's with Board of Health stuff.
Yeah,
So we have the
okay.
forms from them that have
That they have to
all their
fill out.
requirements and all the papers that they have to provide to the Board of Health.
Another suggestion that I'm here basically to represent the council, because we agreed to help you guys any way we could. So one of the other ways we want to help you advertise is it might be too soon, it might not be, and I don't know, you're welcome to join us, but we're doing our All That Glitters Holiday Craft Show at Loon Pond, December 13th, 6 to 8, and then all day Saturday from 10 to 3. You're welcome to come, tell people about what you're doing, or just bring a sign and I'll be happy to put the sign up. So if that helps, so that you can get the word out more. And who knows who shows up? It could be somebody who runs a farm someplace else. I have no idea. Who could end up shopping.
Right. Thank you.
No problem. Or you can hang around.
That's December.
December 13th, which is a Friday evening, 6 to 8. And the cash bar will be open. That might help you. And then Saturday from 10 to 3 on the 14th.
And that's at Loon Pond Lodge.
Yeah, it's at Loon Pond Lodge. Just something to let everybody know that this is happening. Because there are a lot of people who still don't know, probably.
Right.
You're thinking about do the farmer's market and.
And, one of the things is that you already have your vendors, and we're going to be reaching out to different locations. Like, I'm going to personally reach out to the New England homesteaders. I got some people that I know that apiaries and have their own
Nice.
honey. But I think what I'm trying to say is that when we reach out to look for vendors, we're going to be looking at, possibly different directions and different
And there are Lakeville
vendors
vendors that I can happily give you information for.
Well, that's the thing too, is
That's
that
great.
when we get established and have vendors as well, we got to give them information about, the Music and Arts Festival, that they might be interested in being part of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So-
share the wealth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can.
well,
Go
the
both.
other thing we also talked about doing, which again is up to you, the 3 concerts that we do on those 3 Tuesdays in July, which haven't been determined yet, but when they're determined, you guys are welcome to show up there and talk about your Saturday markets. You can either come with goodies if you want, or you can just come and just talk about it, because there's always a 15-minute break in the middle. I do an announcement at the beginning, and in the middle there's a break, and usually I'm just telling everybody where the bathrooms are and that something's brewing is open and what's coming up next week. I can always also introduce one of you to get up on stage and talk about the farmers market.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
you can do that too. I mean, you will already be be doing it, but that doesn't mean you wouldn't hit more people.
Right.
And then you could hang around, and if anybody has questions, they could talk to you about it, to ask specific. And again, I don't know what type of people come. I mean, I see mostly Lakeville people, but depends on who the musician is.
Yeah.
Like when Timmy Brown was there this past year, I can't believe the people that he brought, because he comes from Norton originally, and you would
Right.
believe the people that were there.
Follow them.
Big
We had
groups that
over
came.
200 people,
Yeah.
What kind
and
of
we
music?
usually have around 100.
What kind of music did he do?
Country,
Country?
which is probably why.
Wow.
And he's down in Nashville now, so he comes home a lot and so he played and got a good rate, so it was really good. But it's fun when, you see a whole bunch of people you hadn't seen before who now know about the concerts, and hopefully will be looking for coming this year.
Nice.
Right, because it was a good
And
experience.
hopefully that will also, help you people.
Yeah.
And so anyways, what I guess I'm getting at is anytime we can help you advertise or get the word out or help you with a vendor or something, that's what we want to do is,
Thank you.
be of assistance.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
I got one more thing to add for the next steps on that, besides the writing of the rules and researching the charges,
Yep,
figuring out the day.
okay.
Say
I
that
can see
again.
hours will go with that too.
Settling on the day.
Settling.
Yeah, deciding what day and the hours. I think we probably have a pretty good feeling what that's gonna be, but,
Yeah.
we gotta make it concrete. And then after those 3 things are done, then we'll just figure out where we need to go from there.
Yeah. I was wondering, Robert Barboza wrote a nice article that time for the Gazette about the Agricultural Commission. I think he started doing it just because he wanted to find out what we were about. And I wonder if he might consider writing another article to help us, look for vendors. Is one of the ways. One of
Right.
the ways to help us look for vendors, if you wanted
Yeah.
to write an article.
And
Make
you can
sure-
also reach out to other newspapers. I can give you contact information for, like, the Enterprise, Taunton Gazette, and all that stuff.
Okay.
And the more places you put it out, the better. Even Rochester and Marion.
Yeah.
There's a
They-
few
they have
couple
the
small
Wanderer.
papers out there too. Yeah, the Wanderer.
Yeah.
There's a few papers out there too you could reach out to. And one of the ways that we get crafters too is if any of us go to a craft show and we see anybody we like, we hand them an application and tell them all about the festival.
Good idea.
That's another way of getting people. So it's an actual great, because what we're doing at the same time is we're jurying the person. We see the stuff and we know it's good.
Yes.
Right.
And we don't have something like you there, so we want you. So that's helpful too.
The other good
It
part
is.
about that too is that you're personally doing it, so you can give them the sell too. Oh,
Exactly.
This is a
Yeah.
location.
It's a lot easier.
Right.
Yeah. So you could, are there any farmers markets that do it like during the winter inside?
Yeah.
There are a few.
Another way
There are
for you to
few.
do it.
Yeah.
Reach out to some people, same thing. Just reach out to, or ask them if they know of any other way of contacting, because they must know of other, I mean, that's how we've been doing it. It's just so much smarter to ask somebody that does it.
Already does it.
That already does it, to say, are there any other places you would suggest that I could get some, because we're starting.
Yeah.
But once you tell them about your captured audience, I think that will help you a lot getting, as a first time.
We all set with the farmer's market?
So what?
All right, on to the next. The right to farm bylaw.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming and helping us.
Thank you.
Yeah, oh, you're welcome, anytime. Cindy and Joan both know how to get a hold of me.
We do, in fact.
And I'm going to leave all of this with you,
Oh, okay.
so that,
All right.
good luck with the next part. That sounds like a tough part.
Yeah.
The right to farm bylaw?
Yeah,
Yeah,
good luck.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
back.
Have a good night.
So the meeting with the selectmen was very positive regarding the right to farm bylaw. I believe the next step on this is to put it forth to the selectmen to have it put on the agenda for the vote.
Did you go on, have you been online this afternoon? Lorraine sent a letter for us to send to the selectmen. She sent a letter,
Yeah.
a form letter. The Lakeville Agricultural Commission wants to move forward with the bylaw, put all of our names on it, so we just have to print it and send it, pretty much print it and send it to the selectmen.
Okay. so
She sent it to all of
email?
us in an email.
Okay, all right. Because
I didn't know that
actually,
yet.
Did you see
is
it?
that Lorraine?
Yeah,
Yeah, Lorraine.
sent it.
Yeah, I actually spoke to her on the phone. The one thing that we need to do is actually, we have to vote to put it forth to the town before we can continue on.
We need to do that tonight because the letter, she says that at the meeting tonight, we voted to move forward with the bylaw, so we should take a vote now.
Yeah, that's actually what.
Exactly. We need to take a meeting tonight.
So I'd like to make a motion to move forward with the right to farm bylaw.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I'll go home and check my email.
Yep. All set to go. Just
Yeah.
push print, sign it, and off it goes.
She also sent a form, the Form 7, that she said had to do with the right to farm bylaw.
Yes.
And I don't understand, because it's about the planning board.
Yeah.
Because the planning board, I think, handles all bylaws.
Oh, okay,
So it has to go through the planning board.
okay,
Let's go before them first.
gotcha.
All right. The next one is how to support and expand agriculture within the town. I think the farmers market, I think, is gonna be huge. I think that might actually get people interested in actually starting a very large garden in their yard and being a part of selling
I think so.
in the farmers market, at least I hope so. I think there's a good possibility of it. The other thing that I'd like to do is, I've been trying to get together with Ian Wood to pick his brain on state and federal grants. I have not been able to do so yet. Our schedules have not been matching, and we've both been pretty busy. But I'd like to put a listing of what grants are available and what they're used for on our website, our town website. And then have a listing of people that are available to help with filling those grants out and putting them forward if a person or a grower does not want to do it themselves or is having trouble doing it. Ian Ward is actually one of those type of people that they do for business. They can be kind of complicated. I'm lucky that my brother-in-law is pretty good at it, so he does it for our farm. So, but I think having that information readily available on our website,
Yeah.
so people can
Be
take
very
a look,
helpful.
so, see, what they can apply for, what it can be
Yeah.
used for.
Yeah.
I need a new hay bike.
Do you?
I don't know if you guys have any other ideas on how to try and support or promote agriculture within the town. It's something to think about and
Yeah.
bring forward at at the next meeting. It's, the two I just mentioned are like the very readily apparent, in your face, easy ones. But I'm sure there's other, people are doing other things to try and promote agriculture within their towns and look into.
Yeah, Crystal and I mentioned, I think it just might have been in a general conversation about things that we could post if the Agricultural Commission had a web page, a website. We could post just general things, how to make a compost pile, and you can, there's so many, like a video that you can just, I don't know what you do to it. Do you upload it or download it or something on it, and you just apply it to your website? I don't know these things. I have no sense of technology, but that sort of, there's a lot of things that are already out there that you can just tap into and attach to your own website for
Right.
people to use.
Right.
And so we were both thinking that would be, some way to just expand things in general.
Yeah,
Just-
information
Yeah.
regarding farming and homesteading.
Yeah, and it's not even really big ag, but it's like you're saying, having a farmer's market might get people to want to start a garden, and that's
It's
just,
just small steps.
yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe at the market, I don't mind putting some thought into bringing people in who could talk about different aspects of that.
That's a good idea.
How to grow tomatoes, or how to,
One thing I've been meaning to try is to grow tomatoes with red plastic.
Yeah.
They say that the plastic used as mulch
red plastic.
actually grows the tomatoes better.
I've never heard about the red plastic.
Yeah, I did some reading on that. I haven't tried it. I don't know if this actually.
Say that again, used as mulch?
Yeah, use it as a ground cover. If you'd have to use drip irrigation, and it's basically you put down the plastic to combat the weeds.
Yeah.
And someone found that if you use red plastic as opposed to the black plastic, your tomatoes actually grow better.
Really?
And I read a few different stories on it. So it wasn't just one location from some crazy person that.
Is that only
posted
for
on it.
red tomatoes? And if you're going to grow yellow tomatoes, you got to get yellow plastic.
plastic.
Yeah, I really don't know. I really don't know.
Oh dear.
Wow.
Don't know. That's interesting.
Well, I noticed that some years, most years, if tomatoes grow good, the peppers don't. And if peppers grow good, the tomatoes don't.
Funny.
Yeah, it's like they have different preferences on
Yeah.
what makes them grow
You'd think
better.
they'd be the same, wouldn't you? Where they're both nightshades and they're both. Anyway.
So I think we're done with that one for now.
Okay.
We'll just keep your eyes open on other ideas on how to promote. We'll see what we can drum up and do. The last item on the agenda is any new business that came before us. Unfortunately, I left the paper with the lady's name on it. She contacted me through Messenger, Facebook Messenger. She's looking for property to start a flower business, to grow flowers to sell to the local florists and so on. As the beginning of this year, the town was actually looking for someone to take over the haying of Betty's Neck. And I know they're having lots of problems doing it. Do we know if they ever found someone?
Insurance was the big problem.
Was it?
I know that we tried it too over at the district. Well, I left, but they didn't didn't want to raise hay anymore after I left. It always made us look more palatable to the neighbors. And we did about 1,500, 2,000 bales a year. And I know that they tried hiring someone afterwards, but no one could afford the insurance. And I think we talked about that a little bit here.
Right.
With the town doing it, and that might be the same issue that we need to look at.
Yeah, I'll have to look into it. And then the other question is too is, you know, you get your hay fields established. You don't want to go in there and if they're planning on continuing haying
That's
them,
right.
you don't want to go in there and tear them up and put in flower, you know, rows of fields and fields of flowers. But then again, if they didn't find anybody to do it, and it doesn't look likely, maybe they'd be interested in
Right.
allowing it. Oh,
I know when we were at the selectmen's meeting, they were talking about it, and how Nancy Yates had said she was trying to get the person who had hated before to do it, and Mr. Powderly said, well, they haven't really been taking care of the fields, so I don't know if anybody ever
Right.
got around to it.
okay. I'll look into it a little bit further.
Does anybody know who has, if anyone has access to the state fields on Bridge Street? Someone used to always put corn in there, but the past few years, no one's put any corn in there.
No, I don't know.
You know, all those, that big field on the right-hand side going toward
Standish's
Middleborough?
plant that?
I think the state owns it, don't they?
They always did, but I was wondering if Standish's used to plant it.
Maybe.
I know Joe Rudy used to, when he put that was back a long time ago. When he had cows, he used to plant corn in there.
I noticed nobody's used it for the past few years. I mean, that's a nice piece of property that someone could maybe use
Right,
for something.
right.
There might be a well there too.
I know back in Norwood, I did it as a kid. I rented land for $1, $2 for 20, 30 acres because the old farmers loved the young guy jumping in on it and raising cattle. They love seeing those cows in the field.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And even my daughter down around the bend, they actually lease cows out to some of the rich neighbors for prices like
Really? Just so they could have a,
Have cows.
just so they
cow out the
could
back
just so they
window?
could see them. Yeah.
And eat
You know,
their
they have,
property
you know,
down.
out in that way they all have big farms and
right.
that aren't used. And the numbers were pretty good that they charged. I don't know exactly. It was like 500 a week or something, or 200 a week.
I mean, you're trying to, farmers try and come up with ideas of how to make money in order to make ends meet. That is not one I would ever thought of. You know, renting my cow out, so, you know, the
Yeah,
neighbors
really.
can
And
look out
the
back
goats
window.
are an easy rent
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
because they clean up their area. So
Yeah.
they also do that down there.
But, and aren't some of those very large wealthy properties seasonally, they're lived in seasonally, they aren't all places where people live all the time.
Right.
So you don't want to have a cow of your own because you're not going to be there in the winter.
True.
Yeah.
So you can just
Yeah.
rent your neighbor's
But
cow
you're
for the summer.
expected, they go down and they water them and feed them too.
Yeah,
The people don't have to do a thing.
no,
Oh, yeah, yes.
they just let them graze.
Is there anything else?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I'd like to
Can we
entertain-
pick the next, the date of the next meeting?
Can we?
Yeah. So that it's on the minutes when I send them out and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's always the third Tuesday
Third
of the
Tuesday.
month. Yeah.
It's not going to be Christmas, it's not going to be Christmas Eve.
Which will be,
No, it's going to be the fourth Tuesday.
gonna bring up my calendar here. Be the 17th.
17th, wow.
And it'll be here before
December.
we know it.
Great.
entertain a motion to end the meeting?
I make a motion to end the meeting.
I said,
Adjourn.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.